You do also talk a lot about the niggles and the injuries that obviously, because I mean, you're not that 30-year-old anymore. So I know that was a massive thing for you, and you always put on the war face. You wouldn't let the other guys know that you were going through these. But like, how hard was it on the body to go through that period?
I've always tended to train most days. So Ironman did for 14 years, swim, bike, run most days. And your body. So I've always been fit, but this type of training was totally different. And to answer your question, physically, there were times when my body was just so busted. So week 10, we were doing jiu-jitsu. One of the guys landed on my ribs and cracked my ribs, cartilage went, and it was a real mess. I was in a lot of pain, but I couldn't allow myself to not turn up. I couldn't allow myself to sit on the side. I had to adjust. So I took myself away from all the guys. Mick kept saying, put yourself up against people who are better. Well, that was easy in my case because they were all better than I was. But I took myself to the farthest corner away from the guys who I was potentially going to fight, and kept doing the training, but adapted the training. So if I couldn't sprawl, I'd do something else. After a couple of weeks, I started to get some movement, and I went to Mick Pauly's the sports shop and bought a cricketer's pad. You know the pad that cricketers wear on their thigh. Strapped that, got a big thick sponge, a car wash sponge. Stuck that under the pad. I was back on the mats, and life was grand. We all got cut. I've got old man skin. It's a good job I don't have that blood disorder where you keep bleeding. Otherwise, I'd have bled out years ago. Week 16, we were sparring, and I kicked one of the guys and literally ripped the nail out. I fractured my big toe and ripped the nail out. Not at the end. Sorry, of my toe, not at the end, but at the root. And that was. And even now, nearly a year later, I still can't bend the toe as much. The nail's grown back, but that was a mess. And then lots of other things. But that's part of the game.